The Sporting KC Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB is brought to you by your Midwest Ford dealers. Visit them at your MidwestFordDealers.com. And by the Missouri Lottery. Play it forward with the Missouri Lottery.
Coming up on the show, lots of Sporting Kansas City to talk about. A defeat last weekend and a clash at the top of the East coming up. We also cast our eye on world football and Major League Soccer. Callum Williams here, the voice of Sporting Kansas City, alongside me, Andy Edwards of MLSsoccer.com. Andy, good evening.
Good evening, Cal. How are you?
I'm wonderful. And alongside us as well is SKC, let me get that right, SKC TV's Carter Augustine. How are you?
Hey guys, how are you?
Wonderful. You can give us your opinions. Tweet us at Cal Williams SKC, at Andy Ed MLS, and at El Jefe Augustine. Or get involved yourself, 913-3810-810. That's 913-3810-810. We'll be hearing from Sporting Kansas City's assistant manager, Kerry Zavagnin, shortly here. But first, Andy, let's talk about the second defeat of Sporting KC's season in MLS thus far, away to New England Revolution.
Well, what do we need to talk about? We need to talk about the last 15 minutes of the game. The first 75 minutes really had nothing going on at all, and this is becoming almost a theme of away games for Sporting Kansas City. If you think about the one at Colorado just a few weeks ago, very, very bland, very little happening in the first half, 5 goals in the second half, just completely explodes that game. A similar situation on Saturday against New England. First of all, credit to New England. Their sort of half opportunities came up in stoppage time. They took advantage of it. Unfortunate for Sporting Kansas City the way things went down. The red card for Aurelian Collins, 74th minute, very questionable. You can make a case either way on that one, I think. But it's just, overall, this is not a good New England Revolution team at the moment. They've not played well. They've struggled to score, and you give a team that's struggling to score pretty much 2 free goals the way that Sporting did on Saturday. A bit of an error from Eric Kronberg on the first one, and then a penalty kick for the second. Don't give a bad team, a team struggling to score, don't give them a lifeline, and I think that's what Sporting did.
I think we'll talk a little bit more about the Revolution in a second. For me, they are a team that have room to make progression and progress.
And they will.
They're a young team, and Jay Heaps, I think, has done a very good job with them. Carter, you were in the television truck. What did you see from your monitors that you had in there?
Yeah, I think Sporting, as Vermes said after the game, could have been happy with how they were playing up until the red card. I mean, it was a typical away performance, as Andy said. Don't let anything in behind you. They kept it pretty bottled up tight for the majority of the game. I thought they controlled the game until the red card. I mean, it wasn't thrilling soccer by any means, but they were really dictating and controlling the tempo of the game, and I think they had the better chances before then. That red card obviously changes everything. Even with the red card, obviously, if Feilhaber puts away that chance right afterwards, we're probably talking about a win, maybe even a draw. So overall, I thought it was a decent performance. It's just the red card will change things, and you're unlucky to go away with the defeat on the road. But overall, I don't think they'll be looking at it too harshly as to how they played, because before the red card, New England really didn't trouble them.
That's the topic which we must discuss here, boys, is the red card. For me, we actually had an interesting conversation with Aurelian Collin after the game, didn't we, Carter? And I completely agree with what he was saying. The touch from Fagundes is a poor one, which means Collin has to commit and go into a challenge. For me, every incentive that should produce a red card, there's nothing there for me. The studs aren't high. It's not an aggressive challenge. It's not a challenge where he goes to deliberately hurt the player. I'm interested to get your opinions here, Andy, because, as I said, for me, there's no stud showing whatsoever, and it's not as if the challenge comes in above the ball either. So for me, it's not a red card, it's a yellow card.
Okay, the number one thing I think to take into account here is the fact, if you go back and watch it, and you watch the way that Aurelian Collin goes in, he doesn't go in with any aggression or he doesn't go in to take out Fagundes on the play, and so the intent to really go in hard, which I think is a reputation that Aurelian Collin, fairly or unfairly, whatever you want to say, has, it's not that, okay? And so first of all, that's what everything else is built around. I think, look, maybe the studs are up just a little bit. There's a couple of freeze frames, but it's not at shin level. It's not at the knee level like we saw. Davey Arnaud took one this week from Zach Lloyd, was almost up at his knee. It's not that whatsoever. They're up a little bit. He leaves the ground just a little bit, I think, going in. And so with Fagundes selling it probably pretty well, the little bit of contact that there was, it probably makes it look like for Alan Kelly, the referee, who was in pretty good position, probably makes it look like it's a little bit worse than it really was. But Aurelian Collin, no intent to go in there and injure the player. And that's the number one thing. If we're talking about protecting players, there's no intent to injure the player there.
And that's the issue I've got, is the fact that Zach Lloyd has been given a second yellow card for a challenge like that.
Yeah, that's a straight red.
And Aurelian Collins has been given a straight red card. But as we're saying, we're talking about Sporting Kansas City's 2-0 loss away at New England Revolution. Joining us on the line now is a man who can help us unravel that defeat. It's the assistant coach of Sporting KC, Kerry Zavagnin. Kerry, good evening. How are you?
Good, Cal. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us. As you've been listening to us over the last couple of minutes, we've been discussing Aurelian Collins' red card. From your vantage point, what was your view of it?
Well, during the course of the action, it was very difficult to see from the bench. But after looking at it from the replay, it's not a biased point of view. I think if you look at around the world, but even in particular our league, there are tackles like that week in and week out. And if those are going to be red card offenses, we're going to have a lot more red cards throughout the course of the year. I think Andy pointed out that the intent of the tackle wasn't going in for any violence or with intent to injure. It's a tackle that was probably mistimed and deserved a yellow card, but I think the call of the red was awfully harsh.
From your point of view, Kerry, from a coach's point of view, what went wrong on Saturday for Sporting KC?
Well, I think there were a few things. Obviously, through the run of play, I don't think we had a lot to complain about between the boxes. For going on the road,
you got a caller after Kerry.
League, it's always going to be a difficult challenge, and so I thought for
once Kerry's gone
portions of the game, we established the tempo and we were on the front foot for good portions of the game. It was on the attacking end where, you have 14 shots with one on goal. That's a statistic for concern, and also oftentimes a statistic that's not going to get you any points in this league. And then when you look on the flip side, as we were just talking about the red card, after the 70th minute, obviously we were down a man. We could have gone ahead with a great opportunity with Benny Feilhaber on the counterattack, which was probably one of the better counters that we had over the course up until this point this year. So we missed our chances that we should have capitalized in front of the goal. And then obviously the inability to put the game away, meaning understanding that a point was something that we could control, and we had. But in the dying moments of the game, we gave up too many crosses, and obviously the first goal came from a cross, and unfortunately we were bitten again in injury time. So look, it's a lesson that we learned after Seattle, but unfortunately we have to revisit it again and hopefully improve upon this performance.
Kerry, I want to get back to talking Collin just a little bit here. I guess the narrative around him has been that he's a dirty player, he's a physical player. I don't think he's a dirty player. His numbers this year, some statistics that I'm sure you're probably familiar with: 11 fouls committed in 7 games this year. That seems like a very low number for a guy who last year 15 yellow cards. Okay, now is that something that maybe in the offseason a coach talks to a player and says, look, we need you to be available for every game. We need you to not pick up so many yellow cards, pick up these yellow card accumulation suspensions, or is that something that you really can't try and talk a guy out of when that really is what his game is built around?
Well, I think you're hitting on the point right there. Collin's an aggressive defender. When you look at our two starting backs between Besler and Collin, he's more of the enforcer, and Besler's more of the player that can help us come out of the back. And so you don't want to take one of the biggest strengths that you have in a player and try to nullify it. I think Collin is an honest, hard-working player that sometimes ill-times his tackles, but certainly he comes week in and week out and is up for any physical challenge that comes his way. So as much as he gives it, there are many games over the course of the year that people give it back to him. So he enjoys that piece of the game, and it's absolutely essential that you have players like that in this league. No matter how aesthetically pleasing you want to be over the course of the game, you need players that are able to roll up their sleeves and to to match the physical confrontations that are no doubt a part of each and every game.
Kerry, so after that loss, obviously you guys come back and you have 7 games coming up in May against Eastern Conference opponents. Obviously, calling it in the red card, and with Ike's injury, Bees are going away for national team camp. Is this going to be a really tough test for the depth of the squad over this coming month?
Well, we know the course of this year is going to be a big test for us. We've only gotten through the first hurdle. Obviously, the first part of the season with Champions League and the crowded schedule was the first glimpse of how much we're going to need players this year. Obviously, the injury to Ike certainly hurts our depth, and with Beasler going away, we're really going to be testing the center back position. But there's absolutely no panic on our end because we still have capable bodies that will come in and step into the game and do a good job for us. So I would say over the course of these next 7 games or so, the depth will be tested, but it's something that we've expected.
Kerry, let me go back to the game on Saturday and the role that Antonio Dovale played. Is that something we should expect to see a little more often this season?
Well, Tony's in a position where he's certainly capable of playing in the attacking center midfield role, and at Celta Vigo he played there as well as out on the wings, both on the right and left, and even featured in La Liga this year as a left back. But I would expect us to see him in the role that he played this weekend, as well as a wide player. He has excellent service cutting in on his left foot and can make the final pass. Unfortunately for him, he got caught up with the stomach virus and wasn't able to continue throughout the game. But obviously we're looking for better performance next time, but certainly understand based on his condition at halftime.
And just finally, Kerry, obviously a big test this weekend against Columbus Crew. What are you expecting from them?
I think this team coming in this weekend is perhaps the most organized team that we've faced this year. They're an excellent attacking team in that they commit numbers forward, and certainly a team that prides themselves on possession and transition. I think what we're going to see this weekend is a team that will not be afraid to come into Sporting Park and try to open themselves up, which is certainly a welcome test on our part, and certainly for the fans, a team that will come in and not park the bus in front of their goal is certainly going to be an exciting game for everybody.
Kerry Zavagna, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure, guys.
Thanks, Kerry.
As the assistant coach of Sporting KC, Kerry Zavagna. We'll talk about Columbus Crew a little later on during the show. 913-810-810 is the number to call to get yourselves to us. And Alan, you've done just that. Good evening. What do you want to talk about?
I just had a quick question tactically at the end when Peter brought off Alex and put on Lawrence Olam. It kind of left us vulnerable. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts on leaving a striker on the field, and then when you leave the striker on the field and he dribbles down to the other end, we never gave him an outlet to get the ball away from the Revs. What are your thoughts on that process?
Well, I think, to be honest, Alan, there was a clear need to bring Olam in because of the red card that was given to Aurelian Collins. So straight away, there's a need to put another centre-back in, to go back to the 4 at the back. It's one of those unfortunate things where Martinez was the body that was needed to be sacrificed. I still think there were several outlets in midfield, though. You know, when you think of Benny Feilhaber and Graham Zusi, they were still available there to create opportunities for Dom Dwyer. So it's one of those things for me where, you know, a player who is doing well has unfortunately got to be sacrificed because of a red card. Andy, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, it's always going to be about finding that balance, and you have to consider the fact you're on the road. At that point, you're still holding on to a 0-0 draw at the moment, and then you have, arguably, as Kerry said, maybe the best chance of the entire game. Definitely a better chance with Benny Feilhaber than even the goal scored by Teal Bunbury. You know, that completely, for me, changes the course of the game. That happens, a minute after the red card to Colin, and so there's always going to be a case to be made both ways. You can say you should have played it safer, you should have gone for it. Peter Vermes, I think, really kind of stuck and went for it, leaving a forward out on the field. You know, some people I think would even say, well, why does Dwyer not come off in that situation? And you just try and possess the ball through the midfield, like Alan said. There's always going to be a case for everything. You know, when it doesn't work out, you know, well, why didn't we do this? If it works out, oh, well, that was a great move. You know, it's not nitpicking. It's, you know, there's a million different ways to win a soccer game. Peter Vermes went with one, and I think that fits his managing style as well. I think he's done that, historically in that situation. He never takes the forward off the field.
No, absolutely.
Always leave someone up there. They're never playing for a draw. They're always still, even on the road, even down a man, they're still looking to come out on top.
Absolutely. I think it's actually tremendous credit actually to the coaching staff for leaving a forward on.
Well, they have a
because
belief.
They don't want to play for a point.
It may not always work, but even if they're going to lose their way.
Well, I think if you take a forward off as well, and you have a bank of 4 and a bank of 5 without a forward, that leaves you defending.
Very limited, aren't you?
Yeah, you
as
have
well.
to defend for however 15 minutes it was, 20 minutes. So that forward, especially if it's Dom Dwyer who's going to run his socks off, that he gives you a little bit of an outlet just to, at the very least, if you're in trouble, punt it upfield, let Dwyer chase it. So that's the one thing about leaving it a forward.
Drop him.
I agree. I think Martinez was a little bit unlucky, but you look at everyone else on the field. I mean, you're not really going to take Rozelle off. You're not going to take Zusi off, and then the last guy there is Feilhaber. So a little unlucky on Martinez's part because he came in, had a few chances, but in the end, you definitely need a center half, and I think you do have to leave a forward up just to give yourself an outlet.
Jose Mourinho wouldn't have had a problem taking Dom Dwyer off in that situation. Forward? We don't need no stinking forward.
Another story for another day. Alan, thank you very much for your
Yeah,
call. We'll
thanks,
go
Alan.
to a commercial break, shall we? It is the Sporting KC show on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
This is Sports Radio 810.
Taking cheap shots at Chelsea.
Hi,
I see you.
My family has proudly been operating the 5 A&B CarStar locations in the Kansas City area since 1964. If you've been in an accident, come to A&B CarStar where we offer a lifetime warranty on all repairs and have twice been recognized as Collision Repair Center of the Year by our peers. At A&B CarStar, all repairs must meet our high standards of quality work and exceptional customer service. Call us today at 816-741-6966. A&B CarStar. Relax, we'll take it from here.
I remember our old country home, clean fresh air and flowers growing in the fields along the path beside our swimming hole. Mama hollering through the screen, would you kids like some homemade ice cream? That was such a simpler time and place. Bluebell tastes just like the good old days.
Every day's a party with Bluebell's new mini party cones. Mini sugar cones filled with cake batter frozen dessert topped with white chocolate coating and colored sprinkles. 12 100-calorie cones per pack. Balloons and confetti not included.
Bluebell tastes just like the good old days.
Look for Bluebell frozen snacks at all Hen House markets and festival foods in the Northland.
Kansas City has a league champion!
Sporting KC fans, don't miss your opportunity to present one of the MLS Cup champions their ring during a special ceremony this Sunday before the game. Send us an email to sporting@810whb.com. Let us know why you deserve to be the chosen one. The winner will go on the field before the game with the MLS Cup champions. Don't miss your chance to be a part of the championship celebration this Sunday, May 4th at 2 p.m. Brought to you by Sporting KC and Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Ford is taking the EcoBoost Challenge coast to coast, asking people like you to test drive Ford versus our leading competitors.
We want to find out which vehicle you prefer, and may the best car win.
Let's do this. I've never driven a Ford before, and I'm impressed.
They're experiencing the power and efficiency of available EcoBoost engine technology.
Wow, this car can go. It blew the competition away for me. Ford is totally on my radar now.
Get into the EcoBoost Challenge at your local Ford dealer and get ready to get floored. That's right, during the EcoBoost Challenge at your Midwest Ford dealers, see for yourself why Ford is a step above the competition. Plus, for a limited time, you'll get big cash back, low APR financing, and great lease offers on Ford's full line of fuel-sipping cars, trucks, and SUVs. Don't miss out. Go online to yourmidwestforddealers.com, then visit your dealer to take the EcoBoost Challenge today. Not all buyers will qualify. Incentives vary by model. See dealer for complete details.
Welcome back into the Sporting KC show live on Sports Radio 810 WHB and WHB TV. Callum Williams here alongside Andy Edwards and Carter Augustine. We'll concentrate on world football for a few moments here, boys, and the infamous Copa America coming to North America, it seems. An official announcement being made on Thursday. The last time the US were invited was back in 2007. As we were just discussing off the air, you'd imagine that would mean they'd be involved in this competition. But the interesting thing for me is, who else is going to be involved? Andy, are we expecting someone like Canada to be involved?
Well, 4 teams from CONCACAF outside the U.S. and Mexico. I would imagine there'll be some sort of a qualification process. Maybe they do it that way, or, this is CONCACAF, this is FIFA. Maybe they just decide to do whatever they want and pick 4 teams. And, whoever's going to give us the most money to be in this, come on in. You're in.
You say that like they've done that before.
Yeah, I know. I wish I was just, making this up. But it's awesome. Tell me if you know any of these names, Cal. Messi, Neymar, Suarez, Falcao, Aguero. These are all South American players for the biggest countries of South America.
Yes.
Not only are they going to be coming here and playing, forget friendlies, forget the fact that they're just meaningless, or they're meaningful games, but they're going to be playing some of them against the United States in meaningful games in the United States. Can you imagine the kind of crowds and the people and the money that's going to show up for a tournament like this? It's awesome. And as well, in 2016, right in between the 14 and 18 World Cup, what better way to challenge the U.S. At the halfway mark from World Cup to World Cup, qualifying for the first round of qualifying will be underway. Get a break from that and play some serious competition. It can only be good things for the U.S. national team and for Mexico and for whatever other countries get into it. It's a huge opportunity, and I think it's great. I think it's a great idea. I'm glad that they're doing it.
I'm sure you'll be there, won't you, Carter?
Oh, yeah. I mean, hopefully, I'm sure the powers that be at the stadium here in Kansas City will be trying to levy themselves into that one because, it's going to be fantastic. I mean, obviously, we missed out on the World Cup in 2022. This is a small consolation. I'll definitely take it. I mean, some of these players coming in, like
I still want the World Cup.
Well, yeah, and let's not throw that out either because the problem's in Qatar. But it's going to be amazing, and as Andy said, the players on these teams are incredible. You have some of the most historical national teams in the world coming in here. It's the oldest soccer tournament in the world, by the way. Yep. So it's obviously a very prestigious tournament. It's the 100th edition, so I don't imagine any of those South American teams taking it too lightly and sending B squads. It's just going to be fantastic, and I'm so excited for it. I am interested to see what other CONCACAF nations get invited, but overall, I mean, the 10 South American nations are enough to warrant you watching and you going.
And those 5 guys that I named, 4 of them will be 30 or 31 or 32 around that time, which means, this is what that means.
I know where you're
it's
going
time
with
to
this.
start recruiting these guys. Well, hey, why don't you come play in MLS?
Yeah.
I'd rather get those guys at that age than waiting another 4 years or another 6 years after another World Cup or 2. I mean, sell them on the lifestyle here, sell them on the soccer being played here, bring that level of player to Major League Soccer. We know the money's in the league now. All the money that's come in, we know teams are willing to spend it. It's nothing but good can come from it.
Yeah, maybe Mr. Beckham and Mr. Blank will have several conversations with several agents.
You think Beckham will be all over that? No.
We'll see, shall we? Let's move on to Major League Soccer, shall we? And an individual that I want to ask you two about, Bradley Wright Phillips, scored a hat-trick against Houston Dynamo in the last game for New York Red Bulls. Strange individual, because I saw him play in League One when I was back in England. And he did very well. I saw him a few times playing for the Manchester City Reserves when he was out on loan and whatnot as well. And I always thought this would be an interesting player. He sort of lived under the shadow of his brother Sean Wright Phillips, who at the time was at Manchester City in the Premier League. And,
small shadow, by the way.
Yeah. And I kind of thought to myself, this is a decent player. And he did well. I think it was the 2011-12 season when Charlton went back up to the Championship and he scored 22 goals. He was a little bit lost after that. And then he ended up at New York Red Bulls somehow. And I did scratch my head and thought that was a bit of an odd signing, but here we are. He's got 5 goals now. He scored a hat-trick against Houston Dynamo last week. What are we expecting from Bradley Wright Phillips this season?
Well, I don't know what we can expect. I don't know if he can keep up. Obviously, he's not going to keep up 2 goals per game average like he did last week for an entire season. But if he can just be a consistent, a goal every other or every third game, even alongside Thierry Henry, alongside Tim Cahill, that's exactly what they need. They need a consistent scorer, a consistent contributor, even in the attack to take a little bit of pressure, to take a little bit of focus off of those guys. Neither of those guys are going to play every single game of the season either. And so what Bradley Wright Phillips has done in these last 2 games against Houston and Columbus, he scored 3 great goals and a penalty. 2 of them against Houston, first touch, cross in from the left, cross in from the right, 1 touch. Very like I'm not comparing players, but a very, very similar type finish to Javier Hernandez. Chicharito from Manchester United, he's such a good finisher with his first touch inside the box, just finds a way to redirect the ball into the back of the net. And then the one he scored against Columbus, just what a great, fantastic effort. The first touch is immaculate, and the finish, he's falling back as well when he took it, keeps it on the play perfect. You know, if he can do that every third game or so, you know, New York's what they've struggled with this year is to score goals.
Right.
You know, they're just not finding the back of the net, and they've missed Cahill. But if he can step up and kind of fill that void and bridge until Cahill's back and really firing on all cylinders, you know, the Red Bulls are, again, they're probably the favorite, I think, to finish third in the Eastern Conference. I just think Sporting and Columbus they're head and shoulders above everybody else, at least at the moment. I think they're going to probably be fighting out 1-2 all year. The
one player here who I think is possibly in the bronze element of his career, but is still more than capable of producing golden moments, is Thierry Henry. And the last forward that played alongside Thierry Henry, Kenny Cooper, got 18 goals last season. There's clearly some sort of pattern here, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, one Englishman gets a hat trick, and all of a sudden Cal wants to bring him up and glorify him. But, yeah, I think it's the Thierry Henry effect. I mean, this guy's still an incredible player. Obviously, he's lost the pace that he was so world-renowned for back playing for Arsenal, but we've had the pleasure of watching him here in the United States for a few years, MLS. Anyone that plays, he's just one of those players that you can tell. Anyone that plays with him, you're getting better. And he knows where you're going to be, and he knows how to get the ball to you. I mean, I agree. Playing with Thierry Henry probably is one of the easier things to do in this league. So, as Andy said, we'll wait and see if Wright Phillips can keep this up, because they definitely need another option. I think Lloyd Sam's been playing well as well, but having Thierry Henry on your team sure doesn't hurt you.
I should point out the last goal scorer to play alongside Henry was Kenny Cooper, because, of course, Fabian Espindola last year, very much a different player.
And real quick, Bradley Wright Phillips, does he remind you a little bit of Luke Rogers, who in 2011 had a very good season with the Red Bulls, 11 goals, hard worker, you know, just somebody that, like, you don't need another star alongside Thierry Henry. You need somebody that's going to kind of put their nose in there and do a little bit of the dirt, the little dirty work, and Bradley Wright Phillips has no problem doing that. It's a good partnership.
Elsewhere in Major League Soccer, Andy, Real Salt Lake 2, Vancouver Whitecaps 2. A wonderful last-minute goal from Fernandez to secure a point for the Whitecaps.
Yeah, I bet Nick Rimando doesn't think it's such a wonderful goal. He didn't exactly cover himself in glory on that one. I think Salt Lake are really unfortunate in this one, and it's a big 2 points drop for them, because, you know, if they're able to hold on for that victory, they're tied with Seattle and Dallas. So we have a three-way tie at the top of the Eastern Conference. And by virtue of goal differential, if they were able to hold on by 2, they'd be on top of the Western Conference at the moment. As it is, they're third, 2 points back off of those 2. The first goal, the Vancouver scores in the 86th minute to get themselves back into it. Offside. Should not have counted. The initial shot comes in from the left side, and Mosqueda is half a body length offside. Should not have been a goal. And then Fernandez fires a great strike, and he's shown that he can do this already. Did it in I think it was their season opener up at BC Place. Scored a very similar goal from a similar distance, a similar strike. But again, you know, Nick Rimando just does not do enough on that play, and I'm sure after the game, he was probably the first person to say that. But Salt Lake, it doesn't matter who they play. You know, they dominate a game. They control the game almost the entire 90 minutes, with the exception of the one against Sporting Kansas City. And I think that, you know, for everybody that wants to be down about the result against New England, the one team in the league that is dominating everyone else, Sporting Kansas City, handled pretty easily, and we're really unfortunate to not get 3 points against. This Salt Lake team is they're so good. Doesn't even do it. They're just so consistently.
Well, very organized, aren't they?
They're just so consistently Real Salt Lake. You know, they change coaches in the offseason, and absolutely nothing changes. You know, the results just continue right through to the next. It's incredible. It's a huge testament to those players and to the front office, to the coaching staff, everybody. So I think they're the best team in the West. I don't care what Dallas are doing. Seattle can challenge them, but I think Salt Lake, they've been through it before. They've been through it together. They know what's coming at the end of the season when the playoffs get here. And Seattle, I don't think, really do.
We'll stay with Seattle Sounders and the game that you wanted to talk about.
That's called a transition.
Seattle Sounders beating Colorado comprehensively by 4-1, and a certain Mr. Clint Dempsey having a stern effect once again. Let's briefly talk about the form of Clint Dempsey. 8 goals in 8 MLS games. 7 of his 8 have come in the month of April. What a fantastic month it's been for him.
Yeah, you could tell he's really benefiting from. We've talked about it on the show a few times because, as you said, he's been in such great form. It's hard not to touch on him. I'll have to disagree with Andy. I think Seattle's the best team in the West. They haven't proved it as much as Real Salt Lake has over a course of time, obviously. And I give major credit to that organization in Salt Lake and how they built that spine. I mean, you look at Raimondo, Borchers, and Beckerman up the middle. That's a tough spine to deal with. So I think that's where they've started their dominance and how they have maintained their consistency. Seattle, though, that partnership up top with Deuce and Obafemi Martins, it's obviously firing on all cylinders. I mean, they beat down Colorado. Colorado had given up 5 goals all year before that, and they scored 4 on them. They're just clicking on all cylinders, and with Deuce in this form, it's going to be obviously the World Cup. He's going to be away, see how they rebound from that. But I just with him in this type of form, I mean, that flick on that second goal was so beautiful. And Papa was involved as well. I think he's been kind of an underrated signing so far. He was involved in a few of their goals over the weekend. So I think Schmidt is doing a good job combining the two, and they look a lot less selfish this year than they did last year, and a lot more sharing of the ball. Obafemi Martins will just run all day. And it's tough for the center halves because Oba's running at you. He's making you drop deep, but if you drop deep, then Clint's going to pop up in that space, and you saw it a few times. He got so much space there because of runs Martins was making. So it's a great partnership so far to the season, and I think it's going to continue on. And I think they're going to be the number 1 seed in the West.
A question to both of you before we go to break. I saw a few weeks ago Jürgen Klinsmann, beg your pardon, for the U.S. national team, saying that he thought the reason that Clint Dempsey was in such a rich vein of form was because of his loan spell at Fulham. I have to say I completely disagree with that because, look, he didn't get many games at Fulham, first off. And yes, I understand the argument that he would have kept himself fit and come into the season. But for me now, it's because he's very much the centre stage in Seattle. Everything's going through him. He's playing in a system that benefits him. And for a long time now, he's had a chance to play with Obafemi Martins and the players around him as well.
Carter mentioned the fact that they look less selfish this year going forward, and why do you think that is this year? It's addition by subtraction. Who's gone?
Yes, absolutely.
Who's gone? And look, I know it fits a narrative real well to say, oh, well, Eddie Johnson was the selfish one. He was the black sheep of the group, and he was the troublemaker and the problem with this team. It fits that really easily. I don't think he was the problem with this team, but tactically and stylistically, there's no question the fact that now, Clint Dempsey's not trying to play behind 2 forwards. He is the second forward behind Obafemi Martins. He's got Lamar Nagel out wide right, providing great service. He's got Marco Papa on the left, providing great service. They're not trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. They're putting each player in their best individual position, their best individual role, and you're getting the best individual performances from each of them, and that translates into the team performance. It's not rocket science. You've got a very good player, put him in his best position. I still don't think Ziggy Schmidt's the best tactical coach in Major League Soccer. I would have put Clint Dempsey in that position myself as well.
Well, much more coming here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Next up, we'll speak all about Sporting KC's next opponents, the Columbus Crew.
50,000 watts of sports talk. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Ford is taking the EcoBoost Challenge coast to coast, asking people like you to test drive Ford versus our leading competitors.
We want to find out which vehicle you prefer, and may the best car win.
Let's do this. I've never driven a Ford before, and I'm impressed.
They're experiencing the power and efficiency of available EcoBoost engine technology.
Wow! This car can go! It blew the competition away for me. Ford is totally on my radar now.
Get into the EcoBoost Challenge at your local Ford dealer and get ready to get floored. That's right, during the EcoBoost Challenge at your Midwest Ford dealers, see for yourself why Ford is a step above the competition. Plus, for a limited time, you'll get big cash back, low APR financing, and great lease offers on Ford's full line of fuel-sipping cars, trucks, and SUVs. Don't miss out. Go online to yourmidwestforddealers.com, then visit your Midwest Ford dealer to take the EcoBoost Challenge today. Not all buyers will qualify. Incentives vary by model. See dealer for complete details.
The thrill of the grill event is on right now at the Home Depot. So, let's fire things up. How about a charbroiled charcoal grill at a new lower price of only $79? You grill with it, you smoke with it, and right now, you save $20 with it. Sound tasty? From burgers to brisket to veggies and more. Let's do this. The thrill of the grill event going on right now. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. While supplies last, U.S. only. See store for details.
Dear Congress, I'm writing you about that AM Crunch Wrap from Taco Bell's new breakfast menu. They're hiding a hash brown inside the AM Crunch Wrap, away from plain view. I like my hash browns where I can see them. That ain't breakfast, it's borderline treason. Ah, the end key is stuck again.
The next generation of breakfast is here. Introducing the
Here we go. I'll punch him up.
Bacon, cheese, and a hash brown inside. Only at Taco Bell. Wake up, live Moss. At participating locations.
It's the final segment of the Sporting KC show, live on Sports Radio 810 WHB and WHB TV. Callum Williams, Andy Edwards, and Carter Augustine. And joining us on the line now is a man whose talents are very highly thought of. A standout in college with Creighton, he was drafted in 2012 by Columbus Crew and now prepares for this weekend's match. Ethan Finley, good evening. How are you?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
Wonderful. Thank you very much for your time, Ethan. Really appreciate it. Talk us through the season so far with Columbus Crew. Top of the Eastern Conference at the moment. Things are clearly going well.
Yeah, it was a good start to the season. I think it's been a feeling out process, with Coach Berhalter coming in, obviously the new ownership, last August, and off to a pretty good start, with some good away wins, with the win in Seattle and the win in D.C., it was a great way to start our season, our campaign off this year, and we got, 2 consecutive ties here. The last one here at home was a tough one against a really good team in New York, and I think we feel like we're going in the right direction.
You mentioned a new ownership coming in, obviously a new coach coming in Greg Berhalter. Are those the main differences from Columbus Crew in 2013?
Yeah, I think those differences are becoming a trickle effect in how you see the teams playing and the attitude we're having when we approach the game. I think it's a different mentality. Obviously, we've been known as one of the hardest working teams. I think we still kind of have that identity, but I think we're also reshaping that and creating a team that plays really, really good soccer. It's a very possession-oriented team, a team that likes to keep the ball and make teams chase, especially when we're at home, and try to control the tempo of the game.
You mentioned the fact right there, and it's what I want to hit on, the possession-oriented soccer, the enjoyable soccer to watch. As a player, how much more enjoyable is it to be playing that type of stuff, whereas, maybe in the past, like you weren't the San Jose Earthquakes with Stephen Linhart up top, but, just the stuff you guys are playing this year, so entertaining and so pleasing to the eye. I'm sure that makes it more enjoyable every day to go into work and to train and get ready for the games.
Yeah, it definitely does. Coach Berhalter has emphasized having confidence on the ball and being able to play in these tight spaces, and you hit it it's so much more enjoyable when you have the ball. You're all more on the offense, obviously, and that always is better when you're not chasing the game. I think it also puts us in good positions, and I guess it doesn't allow us to lose games. I think when you play so direct, sometimes you can lose a game, and when we have possession and we're able to control the tempo of a game, if some opportunities come about and maybe they score a goal on us, I still think we have the ability and the confidence to continue to play and find a result still. And I think that's one thing that coach has really emphasized is you're never out of it until you're out of it. We've had some late goals we've scored for wins this year, for ties, and I think that's it's important for us going forward.
You mentioned players good on the ball. One player that we catch a glimpse of from time to time over the weekend is Federico Higuain. What's he like to play with day in, day out, Ethan?
That's incredible. His vision is honestly, it's unbelievable. Some of the things that he sees, 2-3 steps ahead of other guys. And he's good about talking to us in training about, hey, this is what I'm looking at in the game. If I see you in this position, try to read off my body language and what I'm going to do, because when I get the ball in this position, you make this run, I will find you. And he's fantastic about it, and I think the relationships that he's starting to build with the guys up front and with the midfielders is really becoming stronger and stronger. And guys like Hector have come in and haven't missed a beat. Bernardo Norm missed the last game, but these guys have been connecting really well to the midfield along with Will Trapp and Tony Chani. And we've been scoring goals from kind of all over the place, which is good for a team that, is trying to win a championship.
You mentioned the fact that it's more enjoyable, have the ball, and you put yourself in a position to win games, not to lose them by playing possession-oriented. How does that change when you come up against a team like Sporting Kansas City, who you're going to face on Sunday? Also, very, very similar. Where does the battle for the possession? How do you see that one shaking out?
Yeah, Sporting KC is a team that is always plays really good soccer and has high-level players, and obviously they're the champions. They're the top team, and everyone wants to take them down. Sporting Park is it's a tough place to play, and the cauldron's always loud. And I think we'll continue to play our game, have confidence on the ball. I think it'll be a tough test to go against the high pressure that Kansas City puts on. And I know Coach Vermees emphasizes putting guys under and putting them under early. So I think if we can withstand that the first 10, 15 minutes of the game and kind of get our legs grounded, I think that's where we're gonna bunker in and have a pretty good game. Them obviously they got great players in the center of the midfield too that can possess the ball, and some dangerous guys up top. So I think it's going to be a battle. I think the possession will be very tight, and we'll see what happens come Sunday.
And just finally, Ethan, you mentioned obviously you're playing the champions this weekend. Coming up against the champions, is there always a little bit more emphasis behind the game?
Oh, definitely. Sporting KC is been predominantly good for the last couple of years, and obviously got rewarded last year with the with the championship, and a well-deserved championship, and a U.S. Open Cup before that. So I think anytime you can play a team. Obviously, there's champions as well as they're number 2 in the table in the East right now. It's 1 versus 2 come Sunday. I think you have to look at an opportunity to gain points and further your way up the table. Obviously, it's a long season ahead, but every point counts, as we know, come October.
Ethan, thank you very much for your time. We'll see you Sunday at Sporting Park.
I appreciate it, guys. Take care. Thanks a lot.
Ethan Finley of Columbus Crew, Sporting Kansas City's opponents on Sunday. Right, chaps, in the last few minutes. Andy, I'll get your thoughts first. It's been one heck of a start of a season for Columbus Crew so far. How much credit do you give to Greg Berhalter for this turnaround?
Well, I think you have to give him a whole heck of a lot of it. You could just tell by when Ethan was talking about how enjoyable it is to play the soccer that they are. That's his system. He brought that in. He implemented that, and he did it very, very quickly. None of us expected them to take to the tactical switch like they have so quick early in the season. They won their first 3 games of the season. They've struggled the last 3 weeks. They have 3 consecutive 1-1 draws. But even when they're struggling, as Ethan said, they put themselves in positions to still pick up points, and they're still, putting points in the bank for down the road when they're not playing well. And that's the mark of a very good team, is you can not show up consistently with your A game, but you're still getting some kind of result. And they've scored, they've scored a late one against DC United, one of the best goals of the MLS season so far. They have 8 passes out starting with the goalkeeper. He passes it out to one of the fullbacks, and they just work their way up the field. And then Hector Jimenez scores a great goal. Yeah, they're a tough team. But here's what I think is going to be great about this game is they want to play too, and so they're not going to come here and they're not going to sit back, with 9 guys behind the ball, 10 guys behind the ball. They're going to actually try and play against Sporting Kansas City, I feel like. And so that's going to not only be good for both these teams, because that plays into their strengths, but it's going to be great for the fans. There's going to be so much hype building up for this game, getting the rings for the championship last year before. Everything about this Sunday afternoon coming up should be very, very good. Lots of
new signings for Columbus Crew as well, Carter. One that particularly caught my eye in the off-season was Michael Parkhurst coming back to Major League Soccer.
Yeah, and obviously he had such great success with the Rebs back in the day, and just a really solid defender. I think he's going to have to make a case to be in the World Cup just because of his versatility. And Berhalter's used him across the back line already. Will probably continue to do so. I probably see him at center half after the World Cup for sure. But what a great signing, kind of out of nowhere for me. But obviously he's done well. It's just a very fun team to watch, and we've been talking about him all year and how the turnaround has been so quick, as Andy mentioned. So you have to give all credit to Berhalter. But on Sunday, you have the chance to see one of the best players in the league, Federico Higuain. And you have the chance to see one of the best young players in the league, Will Trapp. So if you're not going to go, I don't know what you're doing. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, make sure you get there early as well, as Andy was saying. It's the ring ceremony where Sporting Kansas City will receive their championship rings for their 2013 success. Finally, boys, Sporting Kansas City, obviously there'll be one change. Aurélien Collin is suspended. What do you expect from Peter Vermeer's side?
Well, first of all, I expect a lot of fireworks before the game with the ring ceremony going off. There's already a lot as it is.
That's a guarantee.
No, it's whether it's Tony in the midfield again this week, whether it's Paulo Nagamura coming back, whether it's Martinez, we expect Olin to slide into the back line. It's going to be pretty similar to what it is every single week with Sporting Kansas City. It's a tried, true, tested method of playing and winning soccer games over the last 4 years. This is 4 years now we're going on. Sporting Kansas City being, if not the best team in the league, one of the very best teams in the league. I mean, they're not going to reinvent the wheel.
1 minute.
This week just because they're playing the Crew. I just think it's going to be an entertaining game. Both teams are going to want to play. Both teams are going to be open. And those are the best, very best games to watch.
Carter, briefly, agree?
Agree completely, 100%. We'll see who's on the bench. Maybe a certain young 17-year-old will make the bench, which I'm sure all Sporting fans will be anticipating highly. So, yeah, going to be a great
30.
Well, thanks to Carter, Andy, and Rob, our producer, once again on the Sporting KC show. Sporting taking on Columbus Crew this weekend, live on NBCSN. Also, Andy Edwards and I will have the call right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Do join us from
15:30
Central. From all of us here at Sports Radio 810 WHB, it is good night.